بسم الله الرحمن.
السلام عليكم. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله تعالى من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. وأصلي وأسلم على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. First of all, let me thank you for inviting me to talk to you about this topic. May Allah accept your good deeds, inshallah, and you'll be rewarded in this life and the hereafter. Ameen. The topic that I thought would be a good one to discuss is regarding how Ramadan contributes to improving one's faith. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, when telling us what is the main purpose of the month of Ramadan, fasting. In Surah Al-Baqarah, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. O you who believe, fasting has been prescribed for you just as it was prescribed for people before you, so that you achieve taqwa. So this verse makes it clear that the main purpose of fasting is to entrench, improve, strengthen the believer's taqwa. Now, what is taqwa? Taqwa in Arabic literally means shield oneself. And scholars say to shield oneself from the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Putting it in another way with the same meaning, one shields himself from the pain and the damage of committing a sin or doing a mistake. How does that happen? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala paints a picture for us how this taqwa, being conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in another way of describing the meaning of the word taqwa, it has an incredible impact on the believer's personality, spiritual being, and his contribution to the world around him. To achieve that level, there are some practices that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that will strengthen this taqwa. Now, it is a good thing to reflect on a fact that the Prophet ﷺ, he told us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves us more than our own mothers loves us. Part of that tremendous love for his creation is that he wants them to be successful in this life and in the hereafter. Part of that love is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prescribed practices, we call them rituals in Islam, that will basically makes us better human beings, better Muslims, overall, the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves us to achieve that level. And to do that, he prescribed these rituals. For example, praying, fasting, paying the zakah, doing the hajj. All these rituals, one would notice that they are periodic in the sense that we practice them over and over again. And the purpose of that is so that it becomes entrenched as part of our personality, of our being. When we pray, salah literally means to connect. In Arabic, salah means connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So a minimum of 5 times a day, a Muslim connects with his creator. It's a reminder that you're in good hands, don't worry. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is taking care of you. Now, fasting is another practice that we do for 30 days every year during the month of Ramadan. And going through that kind of practice, that kind of strengthens one personality. There is a similarity with physical exercise. Now, to make one's muscles strong, healthy, and thriving, one has to exercise. If you don't exercise, the muscles will atrophy and become weak. And that's not something that a believer should do. You are expected to take care of this, trust your body. And so when we fast, we exercise an important part of our personality, which is the willpower. Now, you notice that we all know a lot of very smart people, but they get in trouble. And you wonder how they didn't see the right and wrong aspect of the mistake that they committed. Well, they did. They knew. The problem was that their willpower was not strong enough to do what was needed to be done. See, the word sabr in Islam, the meaning that we all use is patience, but actually the Sharia definition of sabr is حبس النفس على ما يقتضيه العقل والشرع, which means that you restrain yourself to do what common sense and shara requires you to do. Sometimes doing something is not easy. It requires high level of willpower, self-control. So that's one of the main benefits of fasting, is that by practicing the fasting, that strengthens your willpower, so that having knowledge and the willpower to do what is right is really what constitutes what we call wisdom and a good believer. So how does, as the verse told us, that the main purpose of fasting is to achieve taqwa. So what are the practices that we do to strengthen our willpower and this taqwa? Now, the taqwa requires both knowledge and strong willpower to do what is right. To understand that, there is a verse that paints what are those practices that creates this person that is so beautiful, that Allah loves and wants us all to achieve. The verse goes, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وسارعوا إلى مغفرة من ربكم وجنة عرضها السماوات والأرض أعدت للمتقين. The translation of the meaning of that verse says, hasten, hurry up to a paradise as vast as the earth and the heavens, that has been specially prepared for the muttaqeen. So who are these muttaqeen? So the next verses go on and paint a portrait of who's muttaqi. How does anyone become a muttaqi? So the next verse goes on and says, الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ فِي السَّرَّاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ. They are the ones who spend in good times and hard times. وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ. And they are the ones who control their anger. وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ. And they forgive people. وَاللَّهُ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. And Allah loves those who excel in anything they do. Let's spend a few minutes reflecting on these verses and these practices. Why do they make someone? I mean, we all agree that, well, these are beautiful things to do. But amazingly, if you look at it from an analytical point of view, why are they so important? How do they make me a better human being, a better Muslim? So the first commandment, الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ فِي السَّرَّاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ. They're the ones who spend when it's easy to spend, in good times, and when it's difficult, the hardship. Now, you notice that the concept of spending is very important in Islam. And we know it's a good thing. You help society, you help people, you pretty much you're helping yourself, really. But there is an angle that very rarely we pay attention to. Why this infaq, spending, is a good practice. If it becomes part of our regular personality, it contributes tremendously. Why? Now, this angle I want to share with you is what I call the intrapreneurship. Now, a person who wants to come up with an idea, a novel idea, and then he wants to invest his effort, time, and money maybe, well, that's risky. There is a special class of people, we call them entrepreneurs. These are the ones who have the courage. They think things out, they come up with a good idea, in their mind it's a good idea, and they invest effort, time, sweat, money. But that takes courage. And if that is not part of your personality, that if you're insecure about money, about wealth, about your circumstances, about your future, that insecurity will prevent you from achieving that. Now, by doing this practice, that, well, don't worry, Allah is taking care of you. That becomes part of your psyche. You have that guts, the courage. There was actually this entrepreneurship mindset. Many of the Sahaba had it. There is a well-known story of one of the Sahaba when the Muslims migrated from Mecca to Medina, Abdurrahman bin Auf. He was a wealthy man. He was a merchant in Mecca. And when he had to leave Mecca, he had to leave everything. He was penniless, basically, when he arrived Medina. And as the Prophet ﷺ, encouraged the Ansar, the Muslims in Medina, to basically help these newcomers, these refugees, these migrants, immigrants, help them any way they can. So one of the Ansar offered Abdurrahman bin Auf to share his wealth with him. He said, thank you, brother. Just tell me where is the market. That's all I need. And he was penniless. And very quickly, he became a very wealthy Muslim in Medina. And he was very generous. Uthman bin Affan also, he was a very successful merchant. He was very wealthy. And he was also very generous. That kind of insecurity was basically, they overcome it because in their mind, they were confident that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will provide, will take care of them. And you all know the history of the early Muslims, how they became a superpower very rapidly. They became, from very humble beginnings, they became basically a major power in the world at the time. And they contributed to humanity in so many ways. So this is an example of how this practice, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of his love for us, he wants us to do. Yes, it's painful. Sometimes it's because we're insecure. And he wants us to overcome that. And this is a practice that helps build that kind of strength of character. Then the second practice that creates this muttaqi, this special person, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates this vast paradise, especially for these class of humans. وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ. They're the ones who control their anger. That's very surprising, actually, that right after that, that these humans, they practice control your anger, control your anger. Well, it's very important because a human being, when you are in a state of anger, your reason is not there. Pretty much when I become angry, I'm an animal. I might do something very stupid. Doing rational things becomes improbable because you're angry, you're not thinking. You're reacting. That's what animals do when they feel threatened. If you look at all the bloodshed, well, most of the bloodshed and problems that humanity has, the root cause of it is anger. Whether it is within a family, we don't try very hard to control our anger. That creates some very destructive side effects that weakens the family, sometimes destroys a family, sometimes hurts the children when they grow up. Sometimes it gets to the point where it might cause bloodshed. A lot of people get killed, either kill or get killed, because there is a state of anger. That's why the Prophet ﷺ, so many times, he reminded us to control our anger. One of the Sahaba came to the Prophet ﷺ and said, "Oh, Messenger of Allah, give me an advice that will make me a better Muslim." He told him, "Don't get angry." He said, "Okay, what's next?" He said, "Don't get angry." Okay, next, don't get angry. 3 times, just to emphasize how important it is. One time, the Prophet ﷺ was sitting with the Sahaba and he asked him, "Do you know who is a champion?" Oh, the Sahaba were kind of surprised. "Yeah, he's the one who beats everybody in wrestling. That's a champion." He said, "No, the real champion is the one who controls his anger." In the Hadith Qudsi, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, O son of Adam, when you get angry, if you control your anger, I will forgive you when I get angry at you. It's basically encouragement that this controlling of the anger is such a wonderful thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive you when you commit a mistake. Now let me move on to the next practice, the third practice. وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ. They're the ones who forgive people. Notice, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't say, oh, they want who forgive the Muslims or the believers. He said, people, Muslims or non-Muslims. See, the concept of forgiveness is such an important concept in Islam. And it's very unfortunate that we very rarely remind each other of the importance of forgiveness. It's not weakness. Aisha radiallahu anha one time asked the Prophet ﷺ during the month of Ramadan, oh, Messenger of Allah, what should I say during the month of Ramadan, the dua that I make, so that I get the advantage of the month of Ramadan? The Prophet ﷺ told her, say, Allahumma innaka afoon kareemun tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anna. Oh Allah, you're generous. You love to forgive. So forgive us. It's a reminder how beautiful and important forgiveness is. Now, it's very important that we practice this controlling of the anger and the forgiveness, especially within our own families. It is very tempting that when we feel insulted or injured, that we get angry, we react. And many of us have this terrible habit of hanging on to the anger and basically not forgiving. In a sense, you're hurting yourself and you're hurting your family or your friends, your people, society. Could you imagine how beautiful the world would be if we all practice forgiveness? And then the last characteristic, Wallahu yuhibbul muhsinin. Allah loves those who excel. And the meaning is obvious. Those who excel in everything good that they do. Anything that's worthwhile you do, you have to excel in it. If you really want to achieve that level of taqwa, be one of those special people that Allah loves so much, then you have to develop this habit. Anything that's worthwhile, it's good that you do your best. You have to excel in it. The Prophet ﷺ in so many ways reminded the Muslims of that meaning. In hadith, he said, Inna Allah kataba al-ihsana ala kulli shay. Allah has ordained excellence on everything. So this excelling in doing things should be part of our personality. You don't do anything worthwhile unless you do your best. You do your intention that, oh, I have to do it in the best way that I know how to do. So you see, brothers and sisters, that here part of Allah's love for us, He doesn't need us to do these things. But because He loves us so much, He wants us to be as perfect as possible. He prescribed these kind of practices. You do it periodically, and especially during the month of Ramadan, so that our personality gets constructed in a way that is healthy, good, and strong. And we overcome all these anxieties, insecurities that make us basically do things or say things out of weakness. Sometimes it does take strength of character not to react and say a foolish thing that hurts somebody who might intentionally or unintentionally hurt us. See, the meaning of Islam is peace. It's not about, I don't want to show weakness. No, you do all that you can to achieve that peace. Because when you're living in a peaceful environment, then you can thrive, you can contribute, you can communicate your faith, you can make da'wah. But if it's an environment that is hostile, you might even have to hide your faith. I better stop at this point, and I do encourage any of you brothers or sisters who want to comment, add to this. This is a good opportunity. I'm just kind of like started the ball rolling, and I would welcome any comment or contribution. Jazakumullah khair, brother.
Thank you, brother. So yes, we're open to questions and comments now.
Assalamu alaikum, brother. This is Rana. I'm not sure if this is a question. It's more of a comment, perhaps. We are, since we're living in the U.S., our kids are born here, and as they're growing up, even the lessons that we learn from our parents or at the mosque or someone else, whatever we learn, we try to pass on to our kids, plus more. Tradition, not tradition, more of culture, U.S. culture, a lot of us learn, well, when you turn 18, you become an adult, right? So, or perhaps 21. A lot of us think that, well, we are old enough to make our own decisions or old enough to do the things that we want to do. Even earlier age, I don't know, 10, 11, 12, 13, even earlier stage, kids are more prone to say, hey, I know what to do, don't tell me what to do, right? Attitude of that type of attitude becomes very difficult for parents. What was your recommendation for kids that we have now that tends to act very mature? And it's kind of difficult on parents to impose a lot of things that, hey, don't do this, do this. Our religion in overall is strict. Everybody knows that. Even though Islam means peace, but our religion is strict. Our current situation in US, how we're living, that strictness does not go very well with the kids. What would your advice or recommendation, suggestion you would give for us?
Yeah. Assalamu alaikum, brother. Very good question. It's a delicate subject, and obviously requires more than a few minutes to address it. But let me just share with you two things that I kind of highlight as something very important. The first thing is my advice to the parents: don't take it personally. This is just part of human nature, that when we grow up, we go through stages. First, when we are children, we idolize our parents. They are the best. Because we have the closest interaction with our parents when we are very young. Pretty much, we depend on them so much. And we idolize them in a way. And then as we grow up, 10, 11, 12, especially when we have friends at school, and normally friends talk about the good things that happen in their family, and we start basically kind of get the impression that other families, they have a much better life than our family, because they do all these beautiful things, these fun things. Obviously, they don't hear about the other things. And so they start basically building up a level of resentment. And then the fact that now they become more aware and they see their father or their mother, they commit mistakes, something like that, they start building a level of resentment. Not all, obviously, but it's common. And part of growing up, again, the hormones start kicking in and they're all confused. We become confused. I'm talking about myself now as say that I'm a teenager. And all this hormones and ideas, and I want to become independent and so on. So I become rebellious. I try to basically test where the limits are, start pushing where the limits are. That's where the parents basically have to draw the lines. Many parents, they think that, well, if they go along, they basically preserve the love of their children. That's a big mistake. Children actually, if you look at children whose parents have been too lax, too basically let them do anything they want, they don't respect their parents because they realize that they needed boundaries. That's, again, part of that security that we all need. I mean, that's why we build fences around our houses, because one of us, there is boundary. This is my house. And a child needs that too. And when a parent basically doesn't spend time to build those boundaries around them, yes, you're not supposed to go drift out of this boundary, then it becomes very clear what am I supposed to do and what's not to do. Okay, so let me don't spend too much time on this, just to point out that parents, don't take it personally. It's a very painful job. And it is something that you should not take the easy way out. Okay, having said that, so what do? Well, we Muslims, we want our children to abide by all these rules, which are by the standards of this society that they're growing up in, is very different. It even might look harsh. Now, realistically, if you want your child to be an angel and don't do this, don't do that, I mean, they hear their parents and father and mother, don't do this, don't do that, okay, I mean, after a while, okay, I mean, what can I do? Everybody else looks like they're having a great time. Why you bring me? I mean, that's in their mind. So what do you need to be realistic? Because he's a human being. He needs to have activity. He needs to have fun. He or she. When I say he, I mean both, a daughter or a son. So there is an approach that we practice that with. I have 3 boys. Now they're all men. But when they were growing up, we did homeschooling, and so we were a little bit have a little bit more control. But we realized that they needed to basically release this energy, have activities, play soccer, do things, play with their friends, basketball, have fun. That's just part of human nature. So what we did, we started this approach where we would take any excuse to invite all the children their age to our house. So pretty much every week, if somebody's birthday or it's Eid or just sleep over, or so they would invite pretty much every kid in the community. Our community was small, so it wasn't that challenging. I mean, it would end up like about 20 kids, and they would come over. And so basically they had an alternative. They didn't need to feel deprived. They had friends, they had activities, alternative. So you need to create that alternative. Otherwise, it will not be fair. I mean, we impose these things on them, and then they have no alternative. What do you want them to do? Eventually, they will rebel. They will basically be resentful. So we have to create those alternatives. One other thing about us, not as parents, but as uncles and friends and so on, it is very important that in the mosques, or even when you have gatherings like this, when you see a child, not your own child, because your own child, he's sick and tired of you telling him, don't do this, don't do that, especially in somebody else's house. But the uncles, friends, and so on, it's very important, gently, respectfully. When we see a child does something destructive, not good, we gently have to, no, we don't do that. No, good kids don't do that. Then he realizes that, it's not just my parents are imposing those things on me. That's what society expects. So that way creates basically a more peaceful environment within the family itself and within the community and the mind of the individual. I better stop because this is a very big, vast subject, but I hope these suggestions, I'm sure you're already practicing some of them.
This is Kamal. Do you hear me? You mentioned earlier among our gatherings that it is, Allah didn't make Islam as a strict religion. So the part of the question and comment was, Islam is very strict. I would like to explain that to the gathering here, so that Allah loves us. It's not strictness in Islam. It's a good part of Islam. And Allah wants us to do things that is good for us.
Yes, Jazakallah khair, brother. That's a very good insight. And that's very important. See, one of the most important discoveries in my life, my own life, was to realize that how wonderful, how beautiful the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. And He created all these things just to make us more comfortable. How much loving He is. And it just becomes kind of a natural that you fall in love with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because everything beautiful around you. See, that's another thing, it's very important. The Quran brings to our attention the beauty of the creation of this universe, everything around us. It's a beautiful museum of the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when you see the beauty, you can't help. See, when you see a painting, you can't help but appreciate the one who painted that beautiful painting. And the same thing here, we're just humans. We see all this beauty. You see it. You can't help but remember the Creator. You fall in love with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then you realize that, it's not because He wants me to be miserable that he wants me to pray, fast, give charity. No, I mean, same way when I was a child, my parents told me, oh, go do exercises, practice this, practice that. At the time, I didn't feel like doing it sometimes. And I felt, well, why would I want to do that? Well, because he loved me. And here's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of his love, that he wants us to do for our own good. And when you fall in love with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's not a chore. I mean, it just becomes part of your second nature. It's not a difficult thing to do. And you do it and you're happy because you realize that, I'm becoming a better person. Every time I pray, I become a better person. Every time I fast, I become a better person. It's for my own good. Jazakallah khair, brother.
There is another question through the chat. Sami, I'm taking over. It looks
Oh, that's good, good. That's
another question. They're asking, how to control your anger, or at least try to do.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, I am from Iraq, and people who know people from Iraq, they're bad-tempered. They call them asabi, means ill-tempered people. So when I came here, and I learned this, that, wow, I need to control my anger if I want to be anything that Allah likes to look at. So it's not easy. So I came up with this trick. I told my kids, basically I taught them that, look, don't be like me. I'm hot-tempered, lose my temper easily, blah, 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 and so on. It's bad. See how ugly it is? I become stupid when I become angry. So I need your help. Every time that I become angry, tell me the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. La taghdab. Remember the hadith I told you? Then one of the Sahaba came to the Prophet ﷺ, said, give me an advice to become a better human being. He said, La taghdab. Don't get angry. So I recruited my kids, and they were at the time like 7, 8 years old. And I tell you, brothers and sisters, when a child brings you to your attention that you're doing something you're not supposed to do, it cuts deeply. And it's a very, very, very effective way. And that helped me basically overcome my anger. And now some people basically think that I am maybe weak, that I don't get angry. So alhamdulillah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's blessing, and my little kids at the time, they're men now, they helped me basically overcome it by using this trick. And I think it doesn't belittle you when you build in your child that you love so much this important thing of controlling anger. One of the main reasons why Muslims, Muslim countries, Muslim nations all over the world nowadays, they fail is because anger. We get angry, we kill each other. We get angry with each other. We disagree, we get angry. We can't think anymore, and we get it out on each other. Much of our failures, third world countries, you study them, you'll find out that this is one of the main reasons. They get angry at each other, they get it out on each other, and they don't forgive each other. So this is the trick that worked with me. Hopefully it will work with you too.
Thank you, Brother Sami. Is there any other question? If not, then Brother Sami.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Yes, brother.
You discussed the ayat from the Quran says لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ regarding the fasting, and you mentioned those 3 qualities: infaq fi sabilillah, and controlling anger, and the third one is to be generous. Forgive, yeah. So
yeah, and then there was a 4th one.
Mohsinin, excellent.
Yes.
So but you didn't put them with the with how it helps in when we are fasting.
Yeah. Jazakallah khair, brother. Yes. So excelling in everything we do is, I mean, obviously it's a good thing. That's how nations, they prosper, they thrive. So when that becomes part of your personality, that you excel in everything you do. So the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ said that Allah ordained excellence in everything we do. And the second half of the hadith was that when you slaughter, make sure that your knife is sharp and that the animal you're slaughtering is comfortable. So even in something as trivial as we don't pay much attention to, like that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expects us to excel in. So what does that mean? Well, when that doing things in as excellently as possible means that even when you're dealing with human beings, with your family, you want to be the best possible. So that helps you control your anger, because you don't want to be a shabby example for your wife and your children. When you're dealing with friends and people just generally, you want to be an excellent person. And part of that excellence means that you forgive. So it kind of sharpens the boundaries of your personality, that you stand out. This guy is amazing. He does everything well. He makes sure that everything he does, he builds, everything he works on is excellent. I mean, people can't help but look at you. So it's da'wah in a way. This is a form of, it's called passive da'wah. You're not basically telling people, hey, you become Muslim, become like me. No, but by being so beautifully designed, beautifully executed human being, people can't help but look at you. Wow, what's make that person so special, so amazing? That's da'wah.
Yeah, Brother Sami, question was how Ramadan connects to that. You know, how fasting,
Yes,
that for us. That was the question.
yes. See, during Ramadan, obviously your thirst and hunger reminds you that what are you doing? You're doing it for a special purpose. So this constant reminder all day long for 30 days is that you have a goal to achieve. What is it? And then these practices that when you do it in the month of Ramadan, they're very special. You get even more reward. It becomes more focused during the month of Ramadan. Why? Because now your hunger and thirst is focusing all your attention. There is something in psychology called sensory deprivation. When you study, let's say, and you want to focus, you don't want any distraction. Okay, so your senses, you want it all focused on one thing. During the month of Ramadan, pretty much all your senses are focused on how to be a good Muslim. That's why you're fasting. Nobody's putting a gun to your head. So you have that kind of, in a way, a focused goal, which is, I want to be a good Muslim, a better Muslim. By doing these practices, all that is channeled into really building a personality that is in a form that Allah loves. And that's where you become muttaqi.
Brother Sami, one more question, then inshallah we'll make dua. The question is, you know, when you criticize or you have a strong opinion about something, and you know, when you deal with other people, it creates anger and rebellious situation. And then as an adult, we do that with kids. So how can we manage something like that? How can we, excel in that situation?
Yeah, that's again, it's a challenging thing where you only through practice, you kind of master this kind of attitude. The Prophet ﷺ, he said about this topic that you just brought, من كان يحب الله ورسوله فليترك المراء. Whomever loves Allah and His Messenger, let him quit arguing. Okay, so the thing is this, it's a good thing that you contribute your opinion. It's a good thing, that's a constructive thing. Don't hide it. But when that creates a conflict or an argument, basically, you don't escalate it to that level. You just kind of say, okay, I said my piece. And again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran paints a picture of those special in a different place. وَالَّذِينَ إِذَا خَاطَبَهُمُ الْجَاهِلُونَ قَالُوا سَلَامًا. And the ones whom the ignorant ones insult them, they say peace, salam. That's why it's very important that this reminder that, look, we want to spread peace. It's all about peace. And everything that you do, that you say, you think about, should always be basically channeled through this goal, that how do we achieve peace? And so as part of that, that's why when you're fasting, the sunnah is when somebody's arguing with you, you don't argue back. You say, Allahumma inni sa'im. Oh Allah, I'm fasting. So when you say that, it's a reminder to yourself and the people around you that you're a peaceful person. You're not in a state of aggression. You don't want to escalate things. Say, Allahumma inni sa'im. That's a sunnah. So every time if somebody tries to drag you into an argument or a confrontation, something like that, but you say it loud, Allahumma inni sa'im. Why? That's a sunnah. That's what the Prophet ﷺ told us to do. It's not only a reminder for yourself, but also to the people around you that, look, I mean, we need to go to a place where it's peace. That's what this month is all about.
So, Brother Sami, although we have about two and a half hours to break fast, but they're almost ready to break fast.
Yes.
Thank you again for your wonderful lecture, and we appreciate you are with us and share your thoughts. Please make dua for everyone. I think it's time for dua, and they can go break fast, inshallah.
Yeah, well, let me, before I make the dua, thank you for inviting me, and may Allah accept your good deeds. And this month is a blessed month, and Allah inshallah will make it return where you'll be even in a better state. Ameen Rabbil Alameen. اللهم إنا نسألك موجبات رحمتك وعزائم مغفرتك والغنيمة من كل بر والنجاة من كل إثم. اللهم لا تدع لنا ذنبا إلا غفرته ولا غما إلا فرجته ولا حاجة هي لك رضا ولنا فيها صلاح إلا عنتنا على قضائها برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وصلي اللهم على محمد وعلى آل محمد. May Allah accept your fasting. Allah bless you and bless your families. And thank you again for honoring me by inviting me. Allah bless you.
Jazakallah khair.
Jazakumullah khair.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.